Welcome back, Bearded Nation. Bearded Brother Matt here, and we are back again with yet another Trade Dissection. This one, as promised, we look at what happens when a championship team explodes. And we're going to follow a piece that was always considered a sidekick. Let me stop tiptoeing around the issue here. This is the Scottie Pippen Trade Dissection. So, let me answer the first question. Does Scottie Pippen deserve the sidekick label? During his time in Chicago, he averaged 17.7 points, 0.9 blocks, 2.1 steals, 5.3 assists, and 6.7 rebounds while shooting 48.1% from the field. During the same time, Jordan averaged 31.4 points, 0.8 blocks, 2.5 steals, and 5.5 assists, and 6.4 rebounds while shooting 50.9% from the field. So outside the points, those numbers are remarkably similar. Makes you wonder if Scottie had more looks and shot more if he would be as well regarded as Jordan. These days, people call him salty, but the numbers show that he may have a point. Anyway, let's get into what happened. See, Scottie had been calling for a trade for a few years before the 97-98 season. In fact, the previous season, despite having just won a fifth NBA title, he said it would be the last time he put on a Bulls uniform. He wound up sticking around and playing another season and won yet another championship. However, this one was going to be a little different, and so was the offseason. You see, Jerry Krause had publicly said that Phil Jackson's one-year extension was the last one he would ever get, even if he went 82-0. He held to that, and Coach Jackson knew it was coming. Then everyone else waited because Jordan had publicly said that he would never play for a coach that wasn't Phil Jackson. Part of that was stoked by a Krause comment about teams, not players, winning titles. That and the Charles Oakley trade rubbed MJ the wrong way. Krause would be forever saying that he was misquoted. At any rate, they had to wait. And wait. And the reason was, there was an owner lockout. It dragged on for 204 days, and just as the end was in sight, Michael Jordan retired. At that point, as the preseason began, Krause detonated the roster, and that was when Pippen finally got moved. Chicago sent the All-Star to Houston, and in return, they got Roy Rogers and a 2000 second-round pick, 33rd overall. That was it. They literally got a guy who could have carried the team post-Jordan and got garbage for him. But let's talk about it. Power forward Roy Rogers. Waived before the season began. Yay. The second-round pick was used on one Jake Voshkul. Jake Voshkul played 16 games in Chicago. Mostly meh. However, he got traded straight up to the Phoenix Suns for Somalia Samake and a 2000 second-round pick, 45th overall. So, that pick, Samake, was waived. The pick was used on the Red Rocket, Matt Bonner, who was immediately traded to the Toronto Raptors for a 2004 second-round pick, 38th overall. With that pick, they would grab a guy to replace all of it with Chris Duhon. He had a 9-season career, decent, started about half his games, and left in free agency. That's literally it. This right here This is everything the Chicago Bulls got for Scottie Pippen. A Hall of Famer and 6-time champion. That's the best Jerry Krause could do. Apparently. So let's look at what Houston did. Houston got Scottie. Was he any good with Houston? Did they do well? No, not really. Pippen didn't really mesh well with the Rockets, and he and Charles Barkley wound up beefing. Pippen only played 50 games in Houston and averaged about 14 points alongside 6 assists and 5 boards. Scottie again agitated for a trade, and Houston obliged. Scottie sent him straight up to Portland for Stacey Ogban, Calvin Cato, Ed Gray, Carlos Rogers, Brian Shaw, and Walt Williams. Whoo, there we go. Alrighty, let's get into this. Stacey Ogban, the Plastic Man. He would go ahead and be waived. Look, out of everybody here, the only people that actually played games for Houston were Calvin Cato, Carlos Rogers, and Walt Williams. Williams and Cato were the only one who played any good games for the Rockets. But the rest of the team was just meh. This was the time Rockets had Cuttino Mobley, Steve Francis, and Yao Ming. In fact, Calvin Cato would play a major role in what happened next, so let's get into that. The Rockets would trade Calvin Cato, Steve Francis, Cuttino Mobley to the Orlando Magic for a package that was Reese Gaines, Juwan Howard, Tyronn Lue, and Tracy McGrady. Oh, yeah, there you go. That's what we're talking about. All right. That is yet another Hall of Famer in this tree. All right. Lue. Lue played 21 games in Houston and was traded to Atlanta for John Barry. He would play 2 seasons in Houston as a bench player and then get waived. T-Mac played 6 seasons in Houston, was an all-star in 3 of them, averaged about 22 points a game, and really did play quite well for them. But then he was sent into a 3-team trade blender, and Houston came out of that with Kevin Martin, Hilton Armstrong, Jared Jeffries, a 2012 first-round pick, 16th overall, and Jordan Hill. Okay, Kmart. Kmart was a starting shooting guard for Houston for 3 seasons and averaged about 17 points a game. He played quite well. We'll get to his exit later. Hilton played 9 games in Houston and left as a free agent. Bye-bye, Hilton Armstrong. Jared Jeffries played 36 games over 2 seasons and then was waived. The first-round pick was used on Royce White. White never played a game in Houston and was traded away to the 76ers, along with Furkan Aldemir, to the Philadelphia 76ers for a conditional 2014 second-round pick. The conditions were not met, so it was basically White and Aldemir for nothing. Jordan Hill played 3 okay seasons in Houston before being traded away. He was sent straight up to the Lakers for Derek Fisher and a 2014 first-round pick, 21st overall. Fisher was waived 4 days after this trade. The pick would be used on Mitch McGary, but not by Houston. We'll get back to that one. Juwan Howard. Let's go back up. Juwan Howard. Now, he would be traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Justin Reed and Mike James. Now, this was Mike James' second stint in Houston, and he would play 33 games this time before being traded away. Houston would get put into a 3-team trade, and Houston would wind up with Sergei Lishuk, Bobby Jackson, and a 2008 second-round pick, 54th overall. Lishuk never played a game in Houston, but he was traded away in a 3-team trade for Terrence Williams. He would play 1 season in Houston and get waived. Bobby Jackson finished the season in Houston, playing 26 games before being traded with Deontay Green and a 2009 first-round pick, 23rd overall. They sent it to Sacramento for Meta World Peace, Patrick Ewing, and Sean Singletary. No, not that Patrick Ewing. Meta would be Houston's starting small forward when he was Ron Artest and would eventually leave in free agency. The other Ewing was traded to the Knicks for Frederick Weiss, who never played a game in America. Sean Singletary, he would be traded to the Phoenix Suns for DJ Strawberry. And now we kind of have to talk about Marty Leunen. That pick was used on Marty Leunen, who would be traded to the Clippers for, Sergei Lishuk and Josh Smith. Smith would wind up playing one season in Houston, 26 games, and then he would vanish to China and then come back and play in New Orleans. Lishuk, again, never played in the NBA. Now we've got to move back up here to Reese Gaines, because this is where things are going to get interesting. See, Houston would send Reese Gaines, a 2006 second-round pick, 39th overall, used on David Knoll, and a 2002 56th overall pick used on Ramon Sessions to the Milwaukee Bucks for Zendon Hamilton and, Mike James. This would be the first time Mike James was a Rocket. He would get traded to Toronto for Rafer Alston. That's a name people know. He would play 48 games in Houston before being traded away in a 3-team trade. Houston would get back Kyle Lowry and Brian Cook. Cook played 15 games in Houston before being waived. Lowry was Houston's starting point guard for 4 seasons and averaged about 11 points a game before being traded to Toronto, where he would become an all-star, for Gary Forbes and a 2013 first-round pick, 12th overall. Forbes never played a game in Houston and was waived. That first-round pick was used on Steven Adams, but not by Houston, who packaged it with Jeremy Lamb, Kevin Martin. We got back to Kmart. A 2013 second-round pick, 32nd overall, used on Alex Abrinas. And, look, it's the Mitch McGary pick, 2014 first-round, 21st overall. They would send all of that to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and in return, they would get back Cole Aldrich, Daquan Cook, Lazar Hayward, and James Harden. Look, there's another future Hall of Fame player. So let's get working here. Cook played 16 games and then was waived. Hayward, waived immediately. Aldrich played 30 games in Houston before being packaged with Tony Douglas and Patrick Patterson and sent to the Sacramento Kings for Francisco Garcia, Tyler Honeycutt, and Thomas Robinson. Honeycutt was waived right away. Garcia played 3 unremarkable seasons in Houston before being waived. And Robinson played 19 games in Houston before being traded. He was sent straight up to the Portland Trail Blazers for Kostas Papanikolaou, Marko Teodorovic, a 2015 second-round pick, 37th overall, and a 2017 second-round pick, 45th overall. Now, let's get into that. Todorovic? I don't know. You figure it out. He never came to the NBA. But he's only 30? And I guess the Rockets still own his rights if he does? I don't know how that works. I'm not quite sure. Papanikolaou was traded away with Joey Dorsey, Nick Johnson, Pablo Prigioni, and a 2016 round 1 15th overall pick that was Juan Hernan Gomez to the Denver Nuggets for Ty Lawson and a 2017 second round pick, 43rd overall. Lawson was kind of a gigantic disappointment in Houston, although that could be because he wasn't starting. He only started 12 of the 53 games he played there and then was waived. The pick was used on Isaiah Hartenstein, who played 2 seasons in Houston before being waived. Now, this 2015 pick was used on Rashawn Holmes, but not by Houston. They packaged it with Isaiah Cannon and sent it to the Philadelphia 76ers for KJ McDaniels. He would play 3 seasons as a depth player before getting traded to the Nets for cash. As I don't put those transactions on my chart, I did feel the need to mention it here. The 45th overall pick in 2017 was used on Dylan Brooks, who was immediately traded to the Memphis Grizzlies for a 2018 second-round pick, 46th overall, used on DeAnthony Melton. He never played a game in Houston and was very soon after being selected, was packaged with Ryan Anderson and sent to the Phoenix Suns for Marquise Chris and Brandon Knight, who would play unremarkable times in Houston and then get traded away with a 2019 first-round pick, 26th overall, a 2020 second-round pick, 31st overall, a 2020 second-round pick, 52nd overall, in a 3-team trade in which they would wind up with Wade Baldwin, Nick Stauskas, Iman Shumpert, and a 2021 second-round pick, 54th overall. Sandro, you figure that out. Now, all of this except Imam Shumpert would actually be traded with Marty Leunen, who was back in Houston at this point, and sent to the Pacers for cash. Iman Shumpert would leave in free agency. And that ends the non-beard segment of this. Now we need to get into James the Beard Harden. Okay. He played 8 full seasons in Houston before being traded away in the 2020-2021 season. In that time, he averaged 29.6 points a game for the Rockets and was an all-star every season. So his trade is going to be massive. And it wound up being a 4-team deal that wound up with James Harden and a 2023 second-round pick. It's in the future. We don't know what it's going to be yet. And the Rockets would walk away with Rodion Kurucs, Dante Exum, Victor Oladipo, the right to swap first-round picks in 2021, a 2022 first-rounder that was 17th overall, a 2023 first-round swap, a 2024 round 1 pick, a 2025 first-round swap option, a 2026 round 1, a 2027 first-round swap option, and a 2022 round 1 24th overall. Holy Jesus! This is going to go on forever. Not really, most of this is in the future. But there are a few things that we do need to clean up. So, let's get started. Oladipo was sent to Miami for Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a 2022 second-round swap option. That didn't transfer as the Rockets had a better pick than the Heat, so there was no need to swap. Bradley and Olynyk both played a season in Houston before leaving in free agency. Exum never played a game in Houston and was waived. Kurucs, we'll get back to Kurucs. Houston took the 2022 round 1 24th overall pick, which would be used on Marjon Beauchamp, and they would package it with Kurucs, PJ Tucker, a 2022 second-round pick, 31st overall, used on Isaiah Todd, and send it to Milwaukee for DJ Augustin, DJ Wilson, a 2021 round 1 24th overall pick, and a 2023 first-rounder. Okay. That 2021 pick would be used on Josh Christopher. We don't know what the 2023 one will be used on yet. Augustin was waived after 34 games, and Wilson left in free agency. Christopher, he's played 2 seasons and is still trying to find his place in the rotation. Okay, back up. Because the 2022 round 1 17th overall pick was used on Tari Eason. We will have to see how he does. The rest of this is all in the future. It could very easily explode all over the place, and in 10 or more years, it could easily be its own dissection. For now, this one is done. We are finished with it. I don't need to tell you a winner because it's obvious. When you get 2 Hall of Fame players with a third who will probably be a Hall of Famer, it's pretty obvious. Next time, I think I want to go back to the NHL. I want to look at a smaller trade, but that's no less interesting. We get to look at Mike Milbury trades again. And this one involves the Minnesota Wild. And I want to do one that makes me feel good. And anytime you trade with Mike Milbury, you're going to feel better. If you like what I've done here, go ahead and snipe the like button and subscribe like Harden hitting a tray. Share it around with your like-minded friends so they can see this. And we will see you next time. Bearded Nation, stay bearded and peace.